It's truly an honor for me to introduce our guest speaker today. This year's commencement speaker is Mr. Skye Fitzgerald, a good friend, a former classmate of mine. I was fortunate enough to attend this institution with him 25 years ago. I was sitting right where you all are today, and Skye was a year later. Skye was inducted as an honorary member of the Syrian American Medical Society for his work with Syrian refugees and named a distinguished alumnus at Eastern Oregon University for his documentary work. As a Fulbright research scholar, Fitzgerald produced the film Bomb Hunters in Cambodia, and over the course of his career has collaborated with the Sundance Institute, the U.S. Institute of Peace, the State Department, and Mountain Film. As a director of photography, Fitzgerald regularly lensed work for major broadcast and cable strands including Dateline, Vice, CNN, and the Discovery, Travel, History, and Animal Planet channels. Fitzgerald is currently directing a trilogy of films on the global refugee crisis that we face. The first, 50 Feet from Syria, focused on doctors working on the Syrian border and was voted onto the short list for an Oscar. The second, Lifeboat, documents search and rescue operations off the coast of Libya and was nominated for an Academy Award. The third is yet to be filmed. Something that's special about Skye for me is knowing him personally. When I'm in a room with him, I can feel his spirit, and he is an individual that truly I could spend countless hours on, talking about issues as close to us as here at Eastern Oregon University and as far away as across the globe. And so it is truly an honor, and I ask that you please give a warm welcome to Skye Fitzgerald.
I am really happy to be here today. There is no other institution in the world I'd rather speak at than Eastern Oregon University. Thank you, President Insco, for having me, and I know he just mentioned this, but I'd like to add on to the fact that we did attend college here together. And so if any of you here need any blackmail material, transcripts that need to be updated, letters of recommendation, etc., that were turned down, come talk to me later. I think we can probably work something out. Seriously, though, it is an absolute honor to be here, to return to Eastern after so much time away from this beautiful valley. This is an important moment for each of you, a moment of decision that will shift the course of your life from this point forward. I believe deeply in linchpin moments in our lives, experiences and moments that shape who we are and who we become. And so I'm going to share 3 or 4 moments from my own today, with the hope there may be something instructive to learn from the life of a filmmaker. Many years ago, I graduated from a small high school in Grant County, as some of you surely have. And when I say small, I don't mean small like this, I mean small. There were 7 graduates in my high school class. But more unusual than the size of the school was that my family lived 16 miles outside of town with no electricity or running water. We had wood cook stoves for heat, pulled drinking water from the creek, and had an outhouse. And in high school, I was a good student, but certainly wasn't the smartest of the group. That honor probably went to my friend Troy, who decided not to attend college at all, or perhaps Amy, who eventually found her way to Eastern herself, and I think still lives here probably. Amy, you out there anywhere? We'll find out. So my point is, even out of a class of 7, I wasn't at the top, right? I had friends much smarter than I was. I was also an athlete, cross country, but without an overabundance of talent. And for what I lacked in talent, I was able to rely upon a will to compete and determination to improve, to fill the gap, not always successfully. In one race, I pushed myself so hard that I blacked out 10 feet from the finish, and my coach had to tug me across the finish line. The most revealing part of that experience is that I wasn't even close to winning that race. I was probably middle of the pack. But I pushed myself that hard because I wanted to run the race as fast as I was capable. The rest of the pack be damned. And it was this capacity to exert, rather than any kind of talent, that brought me to Eastern as an 18-year-old to run cross-country and track. That's right. But what I found rather quickly, again, was that I was neither the fastest nor even close to being the most talented runner on the team. And that was okay. It was okay because I was competing, doing something I loved, and more importantly, because of a specific moment that I had my first week in LeGrand that I will never forget. One day, after a cross-country workout, I stepped into my apartment on Fur Street and turned on the hot water. And as I watched it flow from the faucet, endlessly, without pause, I experienced something far more important than being the fastest runner on a cross-country team. I experienced a simple moment of gratitude for my access to something as fundamental as running water. So this is the first moment of 3 I'd like to share, the idea of appreciation for simple things, things that we may take for granted, that we shouldn't. Running water, lights that turn on with the flip of a switch, a flushing toilet. These may seem like givens, but not everyone has them, and much of the world's population doesn't. Gratitude. The second moment I have to offer has to do with fear. Right now, I imagine there are some of you who may be fearful about what comes next, about the unknowns and uncertainty surrounding leaving the comfort of this valley for the next phase of your life. And that's completely understandable. And so I would like to share a moment that defined and changed me as a human being. Many years ago, I was riding my bike in Santa Monica along the beach, parallel to the Pacific Coast Highway, when I heard a tremendous boom. I rounded a corner, and there before me was a car crash. I don't know what happened, but somehow a Volvo sedan had catapulted over the top of a VW bus, peeling back the top like a giant can opener. There was a body in the middle of the road, headless, and another person in the road, unconscious. And a woman on the hood of the Volvo was moaning in pain. And as I took this in, a bystander, a woman, ran up and started administering first aid to the unconscious person in the middle of the road, checking vitals, airway, etc. And at the same time, the woman on the hood of the Volvo just rolled slowly back and forth, moaning. It was clear she was dying, that she was about to pass. And I knew exactly what I wanted to do and what I thought I should do. I wanted to help. I wanted to run to the hood of the car, grab her hand, and even if she were to pass quickly, to let her know that someone was there, watching, acknowledging, even if there was little I could do to save her life. At that moment, sirens started blaring, and I knew they would be there within moments, perhaps less. And in that critical moment, I froze. Indecision and fear gripped me, and I watched as this woman's life ebbed, as the paramedics arrived and tried and failed to save her life. This scene is seared into my memory as one of the great failures of my life. It's a moment I'm not proud of. A moment where I could have intervened and provided some measure of comfort to a fellow human being, no matter how fleeting. All of the justifications for inaction rang hollow. The paramedics were moments away. No robust first aid training. She was dying because I knew in my heart of hearts that I could have done something, even if it was simple as providing a moment of comfort. And my failure to act in this moment profoundly affected me. And so I made a promise to myself that from that moment forward, in moments of indecision, when instinct told me I should act, that I would act. That I wouldn't allow fear to freeze me, but rather to propel and motivate me. Since then, I've been chased by soldiers in the Congo, sparred with fur seals in the Antarctic, negotiated with human traffickers in Southeast Asia, filmed in Syria, hung off ice axes, filmed at Mount Everest, and documented villagers cut open 250-pound bombs with hacksaws for the value of the TNT inside. Now, some of these things may have been downright stupid, at the very least, foolish. In fact, I don't recommend all of them. Some may even call them mistakes. But the thing is, as you step out of here today and set out on your careers, you're going to make mistakes, and probably some big ones. That's part of the deal. But don't let those mistakes define you. Instead, ensure those mistakes define who you become. In my case, I learned to know fear, K-N-O-W, to embrace it, to understand it as a healthy mechanism for self-preservation, but also to allow it to catalyze me into action when faced with a troubling reality. So number 2, fear. Know it, embrace it, leverage it. Which brings me back to Eastern and moment number 3. When I was a sophomore here, I was struggling with what I should study. At the time, I was deeply enamored of the theater, but equally concerned that it was a fool's path, fraught with the stereotypical angst of life as an artist. And so I thought, why not law school? So I spent a day in the library, studying what lawyers do, and found myself excited by the financial prospects, but entirely dispirited by the idea of sitting in an office all day. In fact, my struggle was educationally fundamental. I was concerned whether there was a real value in pursuing a liberal arts education. And in the middle of trying to sort this out, I mentioned it to a professor at Eastern who later became a mentor, someone who always gave me his fullest attention and mindfulness. And I'll never forget what Mark Shadle said to me that day. To paraphrase, a liberal arts education is not designed to learn how to make a living, but how to make a life worth living. And that stuck. That idea was enough to turn the tide and convince me that my intrinsic motivation to create was worth pursuing. And this idea has served to guide me in strange and mysterious ways since. For the past 19 years, I've made a living doing what I love, creating nonfiction films on human rights issues. And I have my time here at Eastern to thank for this. Professors in small classes nurtured my questioning nature instead of trying to shape it. They also challenged the notion that practical concerns should trump an internal compass in life. For me, this idea is beautifully expressed by Sterling Hayden, the actor, author, and war hero. Quote, "To be truly challenging, a voyage, like a life, must rest on a firm foundation of financial unrest. If you are contemplating a voyage and you have the means, abandon the venture until your fortunes change. Only then you will know what the sea is all about." What does a person need, really need? A few pounds of food each day, shelter, 6 feet to lie down in, and some form of working activity that will yield a sense of accomplishment. Unquote. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your family background is. It doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, what religion you practice, or who you love. It doesn't matter whether you have money or connections. From this day forward, it only matters with what you do with every day that follows. You don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, the biggest, or the most talented. We are not born with talent. We earn it through grit and a willingness to return to the task and do it better next time. We learn talent through improvement of craft and technique, the slow burn of incremental personal evolution. Never stop learning in order to execute your task a little bit better next time. If you do this, one day you will produce not only your best work, but work that excels in your field. Believe that you can become the best nurse, the best rancher, the best engineer, the best educator, the best scientist, the best author or coach, because you can and you should. Believe there is meritocracy in the world. I want to share one last story before I go. Many years ago, I was filming a group of college students on a busy street in Tokyo. I had a very large camera on one shoulder and was shooting news style with no assistance. And as we were about to cross the street, suddenly it began to rain hard. And as we walked across the intersection, a Japanese woman walking next to me silently moved her umbrella from over her head to cover me and the camera. And as we walked, and as she covered me with her umbrella, she became absolutely soaked by the rain. And all the time, she looked straight ahead, never making eye contact. And when our paths diverged a block or two later, she simply kept walking, continued on her own path without looking back. A little wetter for the wear, but having done something incredibly kind for a complete stranger. That moment was and is aspirational for me, and I believe can be instructional to each of us. As each of you walk your unique path after today, be sure to look around you as you walk and really see others, see need, see and understand that you have your own umbrella and the ability to shift it over to help someone else, even as you continue on your own way. I challenge you to leave here today with gratitude for what you have. I challenge you to face and embrace your own fear. Know it, and rather than allowing it to freeze you, let it catalyze you into action and to forge your own unique path in life. Lastly, know that you possess the ability to craft a life of meaning and meaningful acts in service of others. And never forget where you come from. Each of you is from Eastern Oregon, and someone from Eastern Oregon can do anything. Thank you.
Wow. Now you know why I say it. I could sit down and talk with Skye for hours, both about his adventures, but also such inspiration through his words. So thank you again, Skye.